Have you ever wondered what's behind the difficulty wall and what is the actual story of GodHand back in childhood? I've struggled through the game so you don't have to, and that's how my fingers look like now. I hope you will enjoy the video, thanks for hitting the like button and let's go! In a world full of bloodthirsty pervert demons, only this guy can save the day.
Water!
His name is Jean, and he is a barrel of laughs who throws punches back and forth without a second thought about who he is aiming at. The girl's name is Olivia, and she is Jean's babysitter. They seem to be in the Wild West settings, or in Venice, in a circus, on a pirate ship. Never mind, this game is so hilarious and all over the place that I don't have to come up with jokes whatsoever. These two are not welcomed here, and Jean has to clean this place. There are multiple types of weapons at my disposals, like boxes, timbers, hammers, bats and bazookas, but there is one that's in the top tier list. It's a GodHand that can be charged and unleashed when things are getting too spicy. Like here, after knocking out this douchebag, his true demonic form arises, and this is the best moment to use his god powers, because these specters can obliterate Jean in 2 punches. What's more, throughout the game they evolve, but you will see it yourself. Deal? However, if you're skillful enough, or in my case lucky, to send them back to hell, they will reward you with new techniques or money. As far as you can see, if you land successful punches or taunt enemies, Jean's level will grow, which means both enemies and his punches become more powerful. There are 4 levels. First 2 make the battle safer, as the enemies won't attack you from behind and won't gang you up unless you upgrade to level 3 or 4, which is also called die. The enemies do attack Jean from behind and do it simultaneously, not waiting until their companions fly dead to another side of the location. As you can understand, gaining levels is hard, but keeping them is way harder. I adjust my combat style a little, mess it up and face consequences. When it happens, you restart the location with all buffs, full HP and money saved. As the video progresses, my skill is getting improved, so I hope you won't send me comments like "Geez man, you suck so deep that I don't even see the person anymore," and so on. I know it, alright? A few more punks are giving hard time to a local, so I save him after the 3rd try. And he thanks me with bananas, which restore health, or if it's already full, it transforms into money. I say about money a lot, and I will show where it's used. It's the 2nd best part of the game. Of course, I can finish off civilians and be a bad guy, but Jean is very righteous, and he needs money. Okay, he mostly needs money, so he'd rather save people in trouble. After clearing out the place, I can go further or step back and travel to a big entertainment hub, where it's possible to spend all money earned in blood and sweat. First, I can buy new moves, roulette techniques, increase the HP bar or GodHand gauge to use it longer. And second, I can blow all the money in the casino. There are about 4 or 5 different types of games: video poker, slot machines and high-stakes slot machines on the top floor, where you need to pay a 100,000 fee to enter. Blackjack and Chihuahua race, which is unlocked in later stages of the game. Overall, I've spent approximately 30% of my playtime in those places, and I've never regretted since. I mean, if GodHand was about playing gambling games only, I would be much satisfied as well. Also, there is a fighting ring, where you have to beat different challenges and collect a cash prize for it. When all fun is done, it's about time to move on and see what the story holds. Jean and Olivia find a hotel, where they stay for quite some time. She makes him leave the place and search for a demon base. Obviously, he doesn't feel like it, and he'd rather sleep or laze around. Shortly after, they hear a scream for help. A few thugs bugger about again. One of them is swinging his axe to chop off the local's hand. Why? It's their way of greeting, I suppose. They cannot unsee it now, and Jean has flashbacks of when another ugly-looking weirdo cut his hand off. Getting back to reality, he can idle no more and comes to punish the malefactors. The one with the axe is much more robust than the others, and now they can even cooperate with each other, using a new move. And yeah, Olivia is a prankster, so she left her piece of art on Jean's back. While he's kicking bad guys down the bridge and goes after them, somewhere in a stinky dark hole, 3 people are sitting at the table, and one stands behind it. They call themselves 4 Devas. This old butler called Belzay, and he considers himself a leader. This sexy succubus is Shannon. She wants to enslave every human and make them her pets. This slim healthy nut is Elvis. Damn, I love Freddie Mercury. I've no idea what he wants, but probably run his brothel, smoke all the cigars in the world and have a little greasy laugh with Shannon. And finally this Gene but cooler is Azel. He wants to prove to Fort Davis that his power is something they must appreciate. They are knit together by a common interest to resurrect Angra. They want to resurrect Angra. With him they will take control over the world to create their own demon paradise with blackjack and hookers. This Angra once tried to establish his rule, but he was exiled by a man with the power of God in his hands. The man is long since gone, and a single clan continues to this day to defend the GodHands and the power held within. So Gene is the owner of the right GodHand and Azel wields the power of the left one. Interesting though, the owners of GodHands may choose their sides and join the evil or stay on the good side. Azel feels that another GodHand has shown up, but nobody believes him because he is a puny human and soon will be enslaved too. He cries and runs away. Yet demon lords are not completely stupid, and Elvis and Shannon are fighting for the prey. Belzay sends Elvis to check if the GodHand is real. Gene is having fun in another town nearby. There he sees a poison chihuahua that bites a citizen. Unless the blood serum is taken, this guy will turn into another chihuahua. Yep, that's how they breed, in real life as well. I catch that mole and save the guy. Around the corner there is a demoness who gives the challenge to Gene to destroy the car as fast as he can until time runs out. By doing so, he will get some gold. And believe me, there is so much more to surprise you. Next, Gene is going to encounter 22nd century typical men. Their attacks are mainly aimed to seduce Gene to change sides. But he is not that kind of man. He is a real chad and turns their guts into a mishmash. Gene enters Elvis's brothel. Looking at these guys, I immediately want to run away. But as you can see, there is no escape for pussies. I beat all the pimps around this place, steal all treasure, watch erotic magazines, save the ladies, and satisfied, go to Elvis. This guy is a comedy himself, but not his combat style. He uses all tricks he can to show who is a daddy here, so I beg for forgiveness. He feels pity for me and does all the work himself.
Get ready, cause I'm really gonna give it to you! Hey, you're the big nice hero, right? How about giving me a hand here?
Huh?
Come on, come on, come on!
Oh, I'll help you out all right.
¡A la mierda!
Elvis survived, and he delivers the truth about the GodHand guy that has arrived. Demon lords are sure they will rule the world sooner, even though Elvis sucked something more than his cigar alone. Gene comes back to the hotel to have a rest, and Olivia proposes another mission for him, to go and check what happens in a town nearby, as it's all set on fire. And if Gene doesn't want to, he can say goodbye to his GodHand. Well, it feels like even demons show more respect to him. Gene is being a hero again for a while.
Thank you!
On the wall he sees a poster of a trio. This is when we get to know how he lost his hand. Those punks held Olivia, and when Gene saw them, he bravely ran to help. But back then they were out of his league, so they chopped his hand instead. However, he found their den and is going to show his best. I have to fight them one by one. This big wacko is stupid as hell, so it's not a difficult task. The girl is just pleasing my eyes and Gene's fingers, and the bald one is the pea brain of this group. He is the most difficult one as well. After the victory, Gene progresses to the graveyard and sees other punks who buried dead bodies, but they don't show much respect. That's when Elvis steps in and teaches them a lesson. First I need to beat up 2 clowns and then Elvis himself. He has learned new tricks with his cigar. Also, after several successful punches, his skin becomes green, so it means he is not a demon, but a toad. But even being a toad, he beats me up. Shame on me. Where is my place on the food chain? A pesky fly? Well, I need some shit then. After a while, Elvis comes back to his round table and accepts his fault. That's why the butler sends Shannon over Jean's head. I can play another gambling game of Chihuahua race. Small advice is to bet on a dog called Lucky Clover, after the name of the developer's team, Clover Studio. If you don't have this dog in your list, wait until the next time. Olivia sends Jean to a circus where Shannon is hanging around and turning humans into Chihuahua pets. It's not a clown fiesta yet, until this guy shows up to play. Exactly, that's a wrestling gorilla. At this point you got so filled up with the rush that even defeat makes a pleasure. It's like a BDSM session where you're afraid for the first 30 seconds, but then you enjoy it so much that even forget a stop word, or just didn't memorize it, so you are fucked up one way or another. By the way, he's got a zipper on his back. Passion for Furies went right. Before I face Shannon, there are those guys.
Gone wild, Joker! One hard gangsta, Diamond! You can find me at the club! Have your pet neutered or spayed! Ow, 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 I'm hurt! I mean hurt! Together we are the... Magnetic Pow!
Douchebags.
That BDSM session goes deeper into the dungeon and shows no signs of letting up. The cherry on top of another layer is Power Gears. I've been playing it so long that I must confess, the pain in the ass they give me brings me joy. Parents, if you are afraid that such cartoons will make your children homosexual, don't worry, this game will.
Next time we'll deal you a killer hand!
After that I have a chance to play a minigame, to return cannonballs with punches. If you haven't decided yet whether this game deserves your attention, this must be the answer. I mean, look at this variety of game experience. Through the dungeon to the top of the circus, where Shannon is waiting. She is giving Jean a warm welcome. Do you know what I've been missing in recent games, apart from giving me hard times? Such cockiness of Jean or Dante, for example. She's using a magical wand and can turn Jean into Chihuahua for a limited time. But I use good old domestic violence. She casts a pass and goes to Liberty City, I mean to the round table. The old butler is still upset because everybody is losing, and Azel is still standing there in the corner crying. Belze gives him one last warning, or he will be sent back to the orphan asylum where Anakin lives under the beds and comes out at night flashing his long lightsaber. Back in hotel, Olivia has found another attraction for Jean. It's to come and bring down a mobile fort where new demon cyborgs are under development. Sure, why not, as this place has so many hot girls I have never seen before, except a few in my basement, of course. As a punishment for my last joke, there is a trio again deep inside the fort, but this time they are fighting as 3 against 1 Jean. Fortunately, the boxes are on my side and I use them properly, throwing stuff at the faces. After the humiliation they run away, but they don't have a chance to go far enough as Azel is standing in their way. They've underestimated him long enough and he unleashes his real power, cutting them in half in one hand movement. In the labs there is the worst spectre in the game. It's clumsy, quite boring to fight and leaves only a weapon after his death. It's pointless because the weapons break fast enough, no matter what quality they are. Later Jean can finally encounter the biggest challenge in his career, Azel.
Now it's time. You danced with the devil.
It's not difficult, it's just my gamepad started to break down. Turns out he wants to be in control of either demons or humans, doesn't matter. And he can do it only after getting another GodHand. Also he says that Olivia is his fiancée. At the round table the members exchange abuses and Belze lets Elvis turn into his real form, but warns him not to lose this time or he will be banned to pick up free cigars in near shops. At the hotel, Olivia tells her story of how her lover killed every member of her clan, which was protecting the GodHands for centuries. Then she escaped with the right one and later transplanted it to Jean, the righteous stranger who is eager to save lives. That's why he had no other choice but to serve her as a puppet. Feels like a fair deal now. Then Jean goes to Venice. There the locals are suffering from the demon thugs. Here he faces other martial art styles. A significant part of this game is that you never get bored looking for weak spots to beat another opponent. Alright, so I've said about pros a lot, but let's speak about cons. Then Jin travels on a ship, playing Space Invaders and fighting with pirates until the last gasp. When he is done, the trip is considered over, and the boss battle starts with a rock bassist, who sold his soul in exchange for the talent. I suppose his soul costs nothing, because if it did, he would be playing with Ozzy Osbourne now, but not fighting against Jin. His other band members are not so bad, especially when there are two of them. Their music is killing. Elvis is waiting at the cathedral. I bet you would sympathize with him if you play this game. Everything he wants is to win Shannon's heart and make love. Feels like he's just a prisoner of circumstances and genuinely a nice guy. This time he's not fooling around. Jin has slapped Shannon's butt so many times she started to like it, so he is going to revenge for that. He transforms into this. The first mouth for food, the second one for cigars, and the third one for Belzé's meat, right? A dozen of thrown boxes later, Elvis falls. He is dying and asks for the last request, to tell Shannon that Elvis was the bravest man Jin has ever fought. Jin pays him respect and says that they would be friends if he weren't a demon. At the round table, Shannon doesn't feel any sorrow over the fallen member. That's why Belzé sends her over Jin's head. Back in the hotel, Olivia gives a scroll for the roulette technique and gives another order to save slaves from a mine nearby. I'm sure this guy doesn't want to be saved.
You must keep working! More than one of you should be enjoying.
Well, but it has to be done, otherwise Jin will lose his hand.
Thank you! Thank you!
Thank you.
After all, Jin finds Shannon. She doesn't fight in her human form anymore and becomes a dog with her body on the top. She turns out to be the easiest boss, and when she runs out of stamina, the ex-prisoned civilians do the rest of the job. At the Hall of Evil, there are only Belzé and Azel left.
Yep.
The old man still believes he will be able to rule the world alone, while Azel chooses his path and leaves the organization. When Jin comes to check on Olivia, the room is empty, and only 3 punks are waiting for him.
Yeah!
He doesn't worry a lot, he believes she will be able to protect herself, and he continues his crusade. This time he goes to Egypt, to the distant lands of sands and flying pyramids. Those things are like ships, and inside of them there is an arena to pass the time. At the end of the journey, Jin encounters Great Sensei. A respectful old man who joined forces of demons, maybe acquiring his powers by selling his soul. This samurai is a tough task to deal with. He clones himself, uses a samurai sword and has a huge amount of HP. But nothing can be compared with retries. The last locations before Belzé are nuts, with top tier enemies and an improved technique setlist. You stop dodging when you expect their final blow, and surprise, they have a final ace in the sleeves. If you are patient to beat all the bad guys and girls, Belzé will meet you in his chamber. He doesn't want to fight as a human and immediately turns into a giant fly. In the first stage he moves on all fours. After that he flies into the air, which changes his moveset, and as a result it takes much time to learn his attacks. Thank God we can't feel the smell of this place, as Belzé has eaten tons of shit to bulk up into this. Jin wants to know where Olivia is, and the old man tells him about Angra, who soon will be revived. So we move on. Angra must be waiting on the top of the tower. The tower is protected by those guys. The second I've seen them I realized I am going to be stuck here for a few hours. It was true. The best tactic is not to play a tough guy, but run away when there are too many enemies around you. The tower inside is like a movie that Bruce Lee once wanted to make, where he would beat different fighters on each new floor, going to the top to the greatest master. Here it works the same. First, it's a stronger resting gorilla, then those fat ninjas, a pimp and his hookers. But the pimp himself wasn't a challenge at all. It goes without saying, it feels like an aggravation before the final battle, and the hardest training at the same time. On the top there is Olivia, sealed inside a demon magic circle, and her fiancé, Azel. However, Angra is not there. Maybe he is stuck in a traffic jam. Azel wants to be the only one. So here we go, the battle starts again. It's as epic as the first time, and here everything is on my side. Boxes, food, and the boosts inside them. Azel feels burning in his left GodHand. Turns out he is a catalyst for Angra's return. Dark power lifts him to the skies, he cannot fight it back, and maybe as the last will wants to help. He rips out his GodHand, and as it needs an owner, it attaches to Jin. Angra is resurrected, and Jin reveals his true power. The Demon Lord has 2 HP bars and a few moves only. He is a big deal until you learn that it's easy to dodge his attacks. In the late stages, he summons specters, but they work against him, because they are much weaker than common ones and leave food or cards to restore GodHand gauge or roulette cards. Surprisingly, I don't want the money anymore. Jin embraces the full powers of GodHands and shoots projectiles at Angra. The Demon Lord is exiled once again, and Azel, lying dead on the ground, is sent somewhere to hell. He was manipulated by Angra all this time and couldn't resist him. Olivia and Jin are mocking each other one last time before the credits. And then domestic violence takes place again. That's the only game I wanted to beat one more time immediately after the end, because Jin becomes faster and have different costumes in his wardrobe, and also because the gameplay is addictive. Totally recommend playing. If you have enjoyed the video, give a like, subscribe and leave a comment about how bad I am at this game. Have a great day, bye!